Hi everybody. So today we're going to be taking a look at amazing story, one of my most favorite Jan Brett stories. She has written the book, probably you've seen, it's called The Hat, and this one is called The Mitten. And she is probably one of the most well-known children's illustrators, which is another word for the person who draws all the pictures, right? But she also wrote the story too, so she's the author and the illustrator, Jan Brett. And this story is called The Mitten. And The Mitten is a wonderful story about a boy named Nicki who has a pair of mittens. Something happens, and there's some animals. You can tell by the cover there's some animals involved. There's going to be a problem in the story, right? But this story is also kind of a folk tale. It's a story that's been passed down in tradition, and it's a Ukrainian tradition, right, is how this story is being told. And so this book also has some really interesting features in the illustrations, and I'm going to point this out to you. But first, how do you like my Santa getup, huh? Isn't that kind of fun? It's almost Christmas. It's like 2 days until Christmas, so I figure why not wear my Santa getup when I'm reading you a story about the mitten. So, because it's a winter story, and this is one of my favorite ones. So, Jan Brett and the Mitten. Oh, let's look at the features that I wanted to show you. So when I open up this story, I have to kind of get my head out of the way because it all won't fit. So I kind of have to peek there. So do you see how on both sides here, there's a shape of mitten here and a shape of mitten here? On both sides, those are like little windows into what's happening next or what's happening at the same time that the story's going on, where the story's going on. I'm going to show you one example. Okay, actually, we'll get started. I'll read you the story and then I'll point it out to you. And then I want your eyes and I want your brain working. So when I'm reading the story, you're taking it all in and your eyes look to see what's coming up ahead because that helps you to start predicting things that are happening in the story, right? Your brains always should be wondering. It happens when you watch cartoons. It happens when you're watching stories. It even happens when you're, I don't know, running around town with your grown-up in the car, like, I wonder what's going to happen next. So this is actually great practice for you. In the story, you're going to be wondering, I wonder what's going to happen next, and you're going to have a clue. Perfect, right? So smart, that Jan Brett. Okay. So here we go. Here's the first set of pictures. I want you just to take a minute and just really kind of take that in and look at it. Can you see it okay? Before I start reading the words. I'm going to start reading. Once there was a boy named Nicki who wanted his new mittens made from wool, white as snow. So now do you see in this little window? Somebody is making wool or creating yarn from wool in a spindle, right? And there he is. And you can see the grandmother here. So this is not happening outside, right? This is happening inside. So you can see that there's something else happening in these windows outside of what's happening in the main picture. Does that make sense? You'll get the hang of it. You'll see how it works. So he wanted his mittens made of white as snow. At first, his grandmother, Baba, did not want to knit white mittens. If you drop one in the snow, she warned, you'll never find it. But Nicki wanted snow white mittens, and finally Baba made them. After she finished, she said, when you come home, first I will look to see if you are safe and sound, and then I will look to see if you have your snow white mittens. So off Nicki went, and it wasn't long until one of his new mittens dropped in the snow and it was left behind. Can you see where he dropped it? Now look ahead. Look ahead here. Can you see what might be happening next? So here he is climbing the tree. Here's his mitten that he dropped. And looking ahead, we see something happening. All right, let's continue reading. A mole tired from tunneling along, discovered the mitten and burrowed inside. It was cozy and warm and just the right size, so he decided to stay. So you can still see Nicki. He's off running around, not realizing he's missing a mitten. And meanwhile, we see something else happening here. A snowshoe rabbit came hopping by. He stopped for a moment to admire his winter coat, and then he saw the mitten, and he wiggled in feet first. The mole didn't think there was room for both of them, but when he saw the rabbit's big kickers, he moved over. Next, a hedgehog came snuffling along. Having spent the day looking under wet leaves for things to eat, he decided to move into the mitten and warm himself. The mole and the rabbit were bumped and jostled, but not just being ones to argue with someone covered in prickles. They made room. I bet you're thinking you know what's going to happen next. As soon as the hedgehog disappeared into the mitten, a big owl, attracted by the commotion, swooped down. When he decided to move in also, the mole, the rabbit, and the hedgehog grumbled. But when they saw the owl's glinty talons, they quickly let him in. What's a talon? Do you know what a talon is? They saw his glinty talon and it scared them a little bit. What on an owl do you think might be frightening enough to make an owl, a hedgehog, and a mole move over? They're giving you a clue by him lifting up his foot. That's a talon. Everybody say, can you say talon? I bet you can. So here they come. See, they're all looking at him. Through the snow appeared a badger. He eyed the mitten and began to climb in. The mole, the rabbit, the hedgehog, and the owl were not pleased. There was no room left, but when they saw his diggers, they gave him the thumb. So see the thumb right there? It's empty, so there's plenty of space apparently. That doesn't look big enough for a badger to me. Let's see how they make it work. Oh, here comes the fox. Did you see that? It started snowing, but the animals were snug in the mitten. A waft of warm steam rose in the air, and a fox trotting by stopped to investigate. Just the sight of the cozy mitten made him feel drowsy. The fox poked in his muzzle, and the mole and the rabbit and the hedgehog and the owl and the badger saw his shiny teeth, and they gave the fox lots of room. Oh, here they go. What's going on with Nicki here? Can you see? Oh, he's still playing, huh? He still hasn't realized he only has one mitten. A great bear came lumbering by. He spied the mitten all plumped up. Not being one to be left out in the cold, he began to nose his way in, and the animals were packed in as tightly as could be. But what animal would argue with a bear? The mitten swelled and stretched, it pulled and it bulged, and too many times its size. But Baba's good knitting held fast. Then along came a meadow mouse, no bigger than an acorn. She wriggled into one space left and made herself comfortable on top of the great bear's nose? I think I know what you're thinking. I think we're thinking the same thing. The bear, tickled by the mouse's whiskers, gave an enormous sneeze. Achoo! The force of the sneeze shot the mitten into the air, and it scattered the animals in all directions. I gotta zoom out for that so you can see what happened. On his way home, Nicki saw a white shape in the distance, and it was the lost mitten silhouetted against the blue sky. He ran to catch his snow-white mitten, and he saw Baba's face in the window. First, she looked to see if he was safe and sound, and then she saw that he still had his new mittens. This is my favorite part. Look. What do you think Baba is thinking? What question is she asking right now? She's thinking, what happened to this mitten? I did not sew this mitten this big. How did it get this big? Do you think that Nicki has the answer? Do you think he knows? Did he see all those animals go in? No, he was playing, right? He was playing. And so all those animals got into that mitten without him ever knowing it. And it shot into the air. And he just magically caught it, very proud of himself, but he didn't even know that it had even gone missing until the end of the book. So, anyway, have you ever lost a mitten? I bet you have. I know I have. My mom used to put mittens, yarn on either side of my mittens and put it through my coat sleeves, and they dangle out of the sleeves of my coat so I wouldn't lose them at school. Can you believe that? Yeah, we don't want to lose our mittens. Keep our hands warm. Anyway. Thank you guys so much for being here. I hope you enjoyed Jan Brett. I hope you enjoyed the mitten, and I will be back with another book. Bye.